Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to the Caserna show. Hope you guys are doing all right out there. Hope things are going good. Apparently, there's a pretty bad thunderstorm that's coming, and I was unaware of. That's fantastic. Anyway, so what I was wanting to talk about today is the idea of people living on other I guess people living on other planets, because I guess it's something that's become more prominent lately. Yeah, I know Elon Musk, he had this whole wanting us to live on Mars in 5 years, which is turning into never now. But I think it's kind of interesting to think of how would that work, because there's so many things that you kind of have to take into account of people, assuming we all don't just leave Earth. I don't think that would, I don't think that's possible. I don't think it's possible for all however many billions of people there are now to suddenly move to a different planet. I think if we ever do, I'm sure we'll probably at some point start to do space traveling and go to other planets. But if we do, there's going to be, depending on how it happens, if Earth is some bombed out, fallout wasteland, and pretty much all of the regular people are going to be fucked on Earth, all the rich people are going to be flying around in space. But if it's a situation where we have just been able to terraform planets and we live on different planets, there's so much about that that's fascinating. Like the politics of that. Because I don't know how would we establish an intergalactic, I guess that's the word. Would that be the word? Yeah, I guess intergalactic. Yeah, how would we have an intergalactic trade? Would we have how would currency work? Would you have the dollar would be different depending on if you're on Venus or Mars, or the euro, or would it depend on what part of the planet? And also that kind of brings up another point is like on another planet, how would exactly land work? How would countries manage that? Because let's be honest, we can't fucking figure out who owns what and what belongs to what country and province and all that shit. We can't figure it out here. So you can imagine how fucked that'd be on a cosmic scale, on a planetary, on a multiplanetary scale. So I was wondering if we have, let's say, three planets, Earth and two other planets, and we have however many few million on two other planets. How exactly would that work with politics? Would those planets, would we start having to make a interplanet government where there's some type of council or some type of joint leadership? Because if you're president of the United States, I don't know how would that apply to another planet. Let's say you're an American citizen and you're on Venus or Mars, and are you does the law of America on Earth apply to you? Because then go into the whole other thing of well, how does the legal system work for interplanetary governments? Because going back to the president, would the president have power over other planets, or would you have to be another government? There's joint governments. There's kind of how we have on Earth, where you have America, you have Russia, you have China. But I don't know. I feel like that's something that's also just going to be it. Assuming, well, not assuming, but when, because I'm pretty sure at some point we will become a spacefaring species. I don't think it's going to happen probably realistically for a long time. I mean, I know we go into space now and we travel, but as far as having a sustainable planet that can house human life, that seems to be very far in the future. That seems like something that we're probably not going to be able to do for a very long time. I'm sure it'll happen, but I would say probably not for maybe 100 years. That might be a stretch, but seeing what we have now for technology, I just don't see how we're going to make the sudden leap from just being able to travel around. And also, not that we don't have sophisticated space traveling technology, but I mean, for fuck's sake, those astronauts were stuck up there for however many. I think that were they up there for months or years? I think it was no, I think it was months. I don't know what happened, but something happened and they ended up being stranded in in space for a while. And so we also have to factor in the fact that we have not really focused on space traveling. I don't think really any country for decades, like 30, 40 years, I don't think really any country has really hyper focused on space travel, space race type stuff. Really, after the 60s, that seemed to kind of be the peak for space travel and, trying to explore space. It kind of died off for a while. And it seems like it's kind of ramping up now, but even now, it seems that there's not really that strong interest in trying to have a very top of the line space system. I mean, you got SpaceX, which is doing this thing with, very shoddy results, but even counting SpaceX, there's not a lot of that I can see. I might be wrong about this, but it doesn't seem like there's a big initiative to trying to really relaunch the space program. I mean, there's talks about it, but there's been talks about it for decades. So yeah, I think we'll get there, but I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. But I think when we get there, I think there's so many implications of like not implications, but just things of like from politics to citizenship to transportation to I mean even military, because I feel like, and this is my theory, I feel like there will be different, not bases, but there will be different provinces of countries. For example, Russia will have like some type of Russia on Venus, and America will have their own version on Venus. And that'll be like an extension of those countries or like their representative on that planet. So that's kind of like their power. Like that's kind of like their like part of that planet. So they actually have some influence there. But the one thing I think also about space traveling and living on different planets, and this might seem a little bit out there, but I don't think it is. I think that when and if we get to the point where we're a spacefaring species where we're living on different planets and there's several, or at least one other planet besides Earth that we can actually live on, I feel like that also brings up the issue of weapons. And not just like guns or, shit like that. I mean like military weapons. Because I feel like at some point we're going to, because Trump made the Space Force, I don't know how many years ago. And I have a prediction about that. I feel like the Space Force, as of right now, is a fucking useless branch of the military. I don't think it serves any fucking purpose. I think the only thing it does, I don't even know if they're in space. Like, I haven't even heard anything about that branch. I think they just exist. And I think one of the requirements to be in the Space Force is you have to be in the Air Force. I think at best you're probably like chilling on a space station. I don't even know if we have. I don't know if we have space stations, but like if we do, you're probably just chilling there. But I feel like right now that is a pretty useless branch of the military. But I feel like when and if we become a spacefaring interplanetary species, that will probably be the most important branch of the military. Probably one of the most important aspects of any country. Because at some point, once we start to travel other, planets and we start to, develop cities and shit like that, well, then after that follows weapons. Making weapons to fight in space, weapons to fight on other planets. And so I think at some point there will probably be some version of a space nuke. Um, like I think not like maybe like similar to like Hiroshima, but I feel like there's going to be some type of weapon of mass destruction that's designed or developed for space travel. And I feel like at that point we're fucked as a species. I think if we get to the point where we develop weapons of mass destruction on a scale of nuclear weapons like Hiroshima and Nagasaki, if we develop those to where we can launch those or use those in space, we're fucked. Because eventually there's going to be some type of interplanetary conflict. And I mean, I know on Earth we haven't really used nuclear warfare, but I feel like if you start to have other planets, not just other countries, but other planets involved, and depending on the conflict, I could easily see, a bomb being dropped from space. And also, I mean, I guess they would develop the terms, but like, how the fuck would you make a deterrent for that. I guess you'd have to make space bases that could blow up a bomb or something. But then you also have to think about the shrapnel and all that shit. Like, unless you just vaporize that nuclear bomb or bomb before it like drops on the planet, even if you destroy it, there's going to be tons of fucking debris and shit that's going to crash and probably cause a lot of damage, if not just kill a ton of people. And so I think that will be I think that could be maybe not like the end of like humans. Like we just bomb ourselves into a fucking interplanetary stone age, and there's just like a whole husk of dead planets from warfare from people. But I feel like it will probably be a leap forward to probably causing our extinction. Because people always talk about robots and AI and shit like that killing people, and honestly, I strongly don't believe that AI is going to kill people. I feel like people are going to kill people and probably the planet before any AI does. I mean, for hundreds of years before AI was even existed, we have been very efficient at making weapons of mass destruction to kill ourselves. I mean, not to kill it, but to like kill other people. I mean, not only just people, just to kill shit. I mean, just to kill things in general. I mean, fuck, how many species have we driven to extinction? So yeah, I think that when we start to develop intergalactic weapons, that will probably be. I mean, I don't know. That seems kind of fucking dramatic to say like that'll be doom and gloom. But like I really just can't see a situation where we have I don't know what would you call it, like I guess spaceships, like military spaceships that can deploy weapons that can drop on planets. I mean, even if you had deterrence, that just sounds like a fuck system right there. Now, even if you have deterrence, I feel like that'd be kind of a 50-50 depending on the type of weapons. But I think that would probably be like a very strong possibility of how people, not people, but like just like planets end up just being destroyed. It's from us making weapons on a grander scale because I don't think that there is like a level of weapon or like a degree of destructive weapons that we would not make. Like, it reminds me when I was rewatching Oppenheimer, where like the idea of that was, well, we'll make a weapon that's so powerful that nobody will ever want to use it because it's so destructive. But what ended up happening is everybody saw how powerful it was, and they're like, oh shit, we need to get one of those. We need one. Yeah, so we can have that power. And so I feel like that'd be the same thing with having weapons of mass destruction in space, is that people would be like, oh shit, we need to have one of those or our fucking country's going to be destroyed or we're going to have to, give up whatever this country says because they got this fucking interplanetary ship that can just drop a bomb and destroy our entire country in 1 second. So yeah, that's one aspect of becoming like an I guess would the term be intergalactic species? No, not that. What hell what would that be called? I guess it would be called an interplanetary civilization. See that sounds a lot more sophisticated. But then also that brings up the other thing of like citizenship. Like I wonder how would that work? Like let's say you're one of your parents is born on Earth, and I don't know, like let's say Canada, and let's say at some point like this is like I guess decades after like we've become like a interplanetary civilization, and let's say your dad was like born on another planet, and so like in that situation, would you have like joint citizenship? Like would you be like an Earth citizen, but then also like another planet? Like, would you have like joint citizenship? Like, that's another thing. It's like, how would citizenship work? Like, would you need like a visa to go to like fucking Mars? And would that be a different visa from going to Venus? And would that like you have to have different ones? Like, that's something I thought about too. Is like, man, like I don't know. Like, there's so many things to factor in when it comes to traveling to different planets. Like it I feel like it would be fun. I would never fucking do it. I just because I don't know. I just don't think it would be as enjoyable living on another planet as other people may think. Like I think the idea of living on another planet sounds better than the reality. Like I think having the idea of like living on a very cool, Star Wars, Star Trek, Marvel type planet. I think that's more like of a fun idea than going to another planet and just like having pretty much almost none of the stuff we have here on Earth and having to artificially make a sustainable, type of environment for us to live in. I think it's just more ideal to have like this idea of like what a planet we could go to would be, where like there'd be aliens and shit, cool different types of suns and skies and moons, and in reality it'd probably be just like barren wasteland with like the most fucking disgusting food. And like that's another thing is like, how would the food situation go? Because I know, well, I know some planets have water, but I think depending on the planet, like that water's not really like, I guess, like consumable. Like I think it's just like not like for human consumption. I don't know if it could be used to like grow crops, but that's another thing is like, I mean, I guess you could import food from Earth, but then that brings up the whole thing of like interplanetary trade, of like how would trade work, of shipping, because you gotta think about like, to have multiple planets of people, civilizations that are connected, that would mean that you would not only need a way of like transporting people to and from those planets, but you'd also need an entire system of transporting goods there, like food, medicine, pretty much all stuff that we have to ship from train and buses and trucks here, you would have to do on a space level. So you'd have to have a whole new trade system in place. And then that brings up the question of, how does intergalactic trade go compared to international trade? Like, I mean, as we're all aware right now, international trade is a fucking mess right now. It is an absolute clusterfuck. So if trade on Earth is already can be a fucking cluster, I can't imagine how that would be on a interplanetary scale. Like, there's going to be fucking shortages. There's going to be a planet where there's like not like enough Hershey's or some shit like that. Like, I feel like there's going to be you're going to be on one planet where like you're not going to be able to get like a solid like 40, 50, probably like 60% of shit you can get on Earth. But I will say, I think that the one thing you'll probably be able to get on any planet is a McDonald's. I think I think the one thing that will probably be a consistent, thing no matter where we go is McDonald's. Pretty much fast food, but McDonald's specifically. I think that's like a perfect embodiment of like man's like progression through spaces. We, instead of putting like the fucking American flag down, we put like the Mickey D sign down, and it like glows up. It's like our first step to terraforming a planet. But yeah, that's something else I thought about with travels. Like, just like there's like, between travel, between trade, between weapons, and then also it just is the thing of like, I don't know, living on another planet. It just seems like, I don't know, it would be fun, but I don't know if it would be something. I don't think it'd be as enjoyable as the idea of it seems like, because I think we're so used to like Star Wars and Star Trek, of having all these cool different planets that you can go to, and, even like in Marvel, where you can go to these like very cool planets, different types of aliens and creatures, and different environments, and that's not the, I mean, we have a lot of cool planets, and that we know of, but the problem is almost none of them are possible for us to live on. And I don't even know if you could terraform most of them to even be sustainable for people. And so, like, I think really we just probably, I think Mars is probably, I think is like the one that they say would be like the best for us to terraform. So, like, at best, we have like one planet that, I mean, Mars seems like a cool place, but it's not like a very grand sci-fi type of environment. Like, it's not something I would like want to go to be like, my God, like this is like worth leaving Earth for. Because that's the other thing is like, I feel like to go to another planet too. Would would you like, if you had a choice? Would you rather live on Mars, that like a terraform planet, or a planet here, like our planet Earth? And I guess it would depend on like some people. Because I met people where they just don't like living here, like on Earth, and they'd want to live, anywhere but here. I don't know, like, I mean, unless Earth just got to the point where it was just like beyond sustainable, like some global Chernobyl incident happened, and like just nobody could live here. I feel like I would take my chances just living here because I feel like there would be just a high degree of death and just probably a fate worse than death. I mean, like you could get stranded on a fucking space station waiting to go to another planet. You could end up being on a planet where there's like some fucking horrible storm that happens that's like just completely like destroys like half the fucking city that's been made. Because like that's one thing I've kind of looked into or like read about is like on other planets, like some of the storms on those planets are just fucking just destructive. I mean, we have destructive weather, but fucking hell, some of these other planets they seem to have like seems like damn near apocalyptic events that happen daily. Like, could you imagine having to live through that shit daily? That'd be like it'd be like living somewhere where you have like constantly like almost like F5s or hurricanes happening every day. That's just fucking that is incomprehensible to me. Yeah, that's something else I thought about. I don't know. I think I've probably put a bit too much thought into this, but then again, I feel like to do space travel, you have to put a lot of thought into it, and I feel like I feel like it's kind of like the flying car concept, where it's a cool concept until you start to think about it, and just like on how many levels that just is not practical, or probably would just be very destructive. And I feel like space travel is kind of the same way where like when you start to really break it down, it sounds like a cool concept, and then you like really start looking at like all the different issues with it and like all the different types of implications, and you're like, my god, this is a fucked concept. Like this is an entirely fucked, type of situation to try to be in. And so yeah, that's something I do wonder though. Like I wonder what the because since we won't really be a space fair. I mean, we're spacefaring now, but we're not a like a highly sophisticated to where we can like fucking tomorrow go to another planet and just live there for a few months and come back. Because I think the society, like the whole culture, politics, the whole political landscape, the whole social landscape, that'll be just so different from what we have now. That I feel like that'll also be a part in like how we as a species kind of adapt to being a spacefaring uh, species. Because I think if we, I mean, we're it, I mean, we're an advanced, advanced now, but like, I feel like depending on how, like, when we become an advanced interplanetary spacefaring species, depending on like what the society is like at that time, I think that'll be like a good indication of like whether we'll be successful or we're just doomed to fucking just destroy everything. Which I mean, granted, that sounds like a kind of an extreme nihilistic or optimistic view. Like you could say there's like a in between there for both, which is fair. Like I mean, but I don't know. I don't think for something like this there would be a lot of. I mean, there would be nuance, but I don't think there would be. I think it would just eventually get to the point where we'd have to learn as a species to even more so than now coexist peacefully. Because one of the things currently that kind of keeps a begrudging peace between the superpowers is the fact that if we were to go to war and like have like a full-on war, we would just destroy the planet and we'd all be fucked. And I feel like if when we get to the point where we have multiple planets of people and we have like interplanetary weapons and ships and shit like that, if we get to the point where we're like, you know what, we need to, despite our differences, need to coexist and we need to figure out how to be diplomatic opposed to militaristic. If we have that approach, I think we probably have a good chance of having a decent interplanetary type of society. If we go the other way, the more imperialistic military way, where it's like, no, this country or these countries or this planet wants to rule the other planets, and that causes conflict to where there's a interplanetary war. Well, then I think the whole thing's just gonna be fucked at that point. But yeah, that's just been my little rant about space travel and sci-fi concepts. I mean, probably realistically, most of what I'm thinking about probably won't happen. But I don't know. I do strongly think, considering we have a space force, And I don't know if any other country has a space force, but at the point that our space force actually becomes a legitimate, like fully funded space, military, I think at that point, then every other country's going to be like, well, we need to have our own, and then they're going to start building up their military, and then eventually that'll lead to a whole other arms race like we've had before, of just trying to make the best military or the best branch of that military. So yeah, like I think that that's possible. I really think that, and I mean, even if we don't become like to where we're going to other planets, I think we might, even despite that, end up making weapons, like interplanetary weapons to use. Because again, like the concept of having a weapon or like a ship, a military ship in space that you can drop a weapon or detonate a weapon from space and wipe out an entire country or an entire province. That is power on a scale that we just do not have any type of comprehension for right now. And there's also no way to like prevent that. Like, if there was a country right now that had a ship in space that could just like fucking shoot down a missile or something, there'd be no way to stop that. So I feel like that even if we don't start going other planets and becoming spacefaring and all that, I think that we're probably going to make some type of interplanetary weapons to be used, if for anything, just on Earth for whatever reason. But yeah, this has been a little rant, not even a rant, just the kind of me just going on about a few things I've been thinking about with space travel and the whole implications, and also kind of like taking in things that are happening now and things that have happened in the past, and kind of trying to figure out like how the hell that would work on a in a planetary scale. But yeah, so uh, I think that's gonna be it for me for this time. And until I see you guys later, hope you guys have a good day and take it easy till next time.